Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2016 Jeep Wrangler, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster diode wiring kit. Before we do that though, let's take a minute, we'll check these out and make sure they're going to work for you. What a diode kit like this is going to accomplish is it's going to send the lighting functions from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Jeep, keeping you safe and legal. And you'll get all of your main functions. You'll get, your left turn signal, your right turn signal, your brake lights, as well as your running lights. So you'll have all of your bases covered there. Now when it comes to picking out a kit, the diode kit here made by Roadmaster is one that we have a ton of experience with. We've been using them a long time. They're really reliable. And honestly, I personally don't have any complaints, so it's a kit you really can't go wrong with. To compare it to some of the other styles, personally on a vehicle, especially like the Jeep, I would recommend to stay away from the magnetic type lighting. Just with those, they stick on the side of your Jeep. You have to set them up every time you want to use them, take them off when you're done, find a place to keep them stored, and it's just kind of a hassle. Even then, there's plug and play type kits available too for the Jeep that more or less will just kind of tee in to your taillight connections that work really good as well. With all that said, with the Roadmaster kits, there are several different variations of it, and which one is going to be the best fit for you largely depends on what type of tow bar you have. So the exact kit that we're using here today, I like to call it the bare bones kit. You just get your wiring, your diodes, and some ins and outs to help get it installed. That kit doesn't come with a cable or a 6-way round connector. And we chose to use this particular kit because our neighbor has the Roadmaster Nighthawk tow bar, which comes included with the cable and the connector. So it didn't make sense to use another kit and have to buy those other components when the tow bar came with it, right? Now, if your tow bar does not come with those components, you'd want to pick up one of the kits that have the connector and the cable. And what one, again, like I said, it's going to be largely dependent on your tow bar. So for those of you that have tow bars with channels in it, like the Nighthawk here, which allows you to run them cables through, you could go with the kit that has the straight cable, right? So you could utilize that channel, or even the hybrid type cable, like what's on the Nighthawk, where it's coiled on the motorhome side, straight on the other end, so you can run it through. With the hybrid kit, it's probably the longest cable available, at least to my knowledge. So if you have a lot of room between the two vehicles, that might work out better for you. And then for those of you that have tow bars that don't have channels, you'd want to use a coiled type kit, all right? That way it'll be up off the ground when you're going straight, but give you that length that you need when you make those turns. With all that said, all of them kits I just mentioned will have a 7-way round motorhome side connector and a 6-way round vehicle side. That's what I always recommend. My thought is if you're installing all this anyway, you might as well get this 6-way in the front so you can use other accessories in the future, maybe like a charge line or something. And it's the most common, right? So, but for whatever reason, another kit's available. It's a coiled cable. You got your 7-way for the motorhome, 4-way round for the Jeep side. And then if you happen to have an older coach that does not have a 7-way on it and just has your standard 4-way flat, then this could be a solution for you if you don't feel like converting it over. The last kit is just a 4-way flat end to a 4-way flat end. At the end of the day, not really a whole lot to these kits, Like I said, we do a bunch of them, and it's really rare that we run into any issues, so really can't go wrong. As far as the installation goes, it's not really that it's complicated per se. It is just a little time consuming, having to route your wire from the front to the back up into the tail lights, but thankfully with the Wrangler, it has such a short wheelbase, can run your wires through the frame like we did, and it's not too bad. But if this is something you're not comfortable doing or don't have the time or space, I definitely understand that. You can always use our dealer locator network to hopefully get you going in the right direction as far as finding a shop that might be able to set this up for you. But if you're going to do this at home, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead, we'll pull into the garage and get started on it now. To begin our installation for our diode wiring kit, you go ahead, pop the hood on your Jeep, and you can take the big bundle of wire that they give you. We're going to route this down from the engine compartment close to the front of our vehicle where we have, or where we're going to mount up our electrical connector. With our wiring up front now, what you can do is take the little rubber protector cap, put that over it, and then we can separate the wires. Just carefully cut in between them all, just a little bit, and then pull them apart a few inches. And what I like to do is kind of bring them all back together here and just cut 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch off, something like that, so they're all straight, and you kind of get a fresh start too, in case you nicked one when you're separating them or something along those lines. But then we're going to strip back all the insulation on all 4 ends. And what we're going to do with the bare ends, you want to twist the wires tight. That'll make it easier to put them into the terminals and give us a better connection. Now we can grab our connector plug here. And the way these are going to work, we're going to be using 4 of these, and they'll just have some small set screws in them. Take a small screwdriver and back the set screw out almost all the way. And as far as where each wire goes, it might be kind of tricky to see, but they are labeled. So this one here is TM for tail light, so the brown wire will go to it. And then this one here is GD for ground. The white wire goes there. LT for left turn. Yellow wire plugs into that. RT for right turn. And the green wire will go there. So we'll just take the appropriate wire here. Place it down into the terminal. And snug up that set screw. And we'll just work our way all the way around so we get them all hooked up. Here's how the back of that connector plug will look once you have all of the wires hooked up. And what I'm going to do later on, once everything is completely hooked up and we know that it's working like it should, I'll come back and put some silicone in between the terminals. That way it'll help prevent corrosion and things of that nature. And then I'll also tape up this too, just to help keep it all sealed. So for the time being, I'll go ahead and just mount this up. Back in the engine compartment, we can take our white wire and we're going to have to ground that. And there's a factory ground stud right here. So that's what we're going to utilize. And so what we need to do, our white wire here, I'm going to cut that to length. Just very carefully cut just the white wire there. We'll peel that back a little ways here. We want to work with the side that is going to our connector plug. Strip this back, twist the wire, and this is how we're going to make all of our electrical connections, whether it be a spade terminal, ring terminal, butt connector, whatever the case may be. But you'll slide that on the bare end of the wire and crimp it down. And then this nut, that's a 10 millimeter. So we'll remove it. Take our ring terminal there. Slide it over the stud. We'll tighten the nut back down. As far as the rest of the white wire, what we're gonna do is just completely remove it from the rest of the harness, and that'll make it a little bit easier to route everything. And chances are really good we'll probably end up using this white wire a little bit later on. So just get it completely peeled off here. I continue to route our wiring towards the bottom side of our Jeep. So I just run it along, dropped it straight down. And if you're installing a braking system that ties into the diode wiring, like the Stay and Play Duo or the Invisibrake, for example, make sure to give yourself a little working room here. So that's kind of why this has some slack in it, but we'll go ahead and continue on underneath of our Jeep. Here's where our wiring comes down, and then I just routed it over this body mount here, and I actually ran it into the frame. And so what I did, I took a piece of wire loom, put it over the wire just so when we go into the frame it's not rubbing up against metal or anything, and pushed it through the frame rail pretty much all the way. So you can see a little bit of it there, and goes all the way up over our rear axle. The wiring continues all the way to the very back of the frame, and here's where it comes out. So once I push the wire out of the frame, I took the green wire and separated it from the yellow and brown. The yellow and brown are going to go up to the driver's side taillight pocket, and if you remember that white wire that we saved, what I did, I taped the end of it to the end of our yellow and brown harness, and so that'll go up there as well. And then the other end of the white wire, I taped that to the green wire. So now our white wire and the green wire is going to get routed to the passenger side, and I simply just use some zip ties to secure it to this cross beam here all the way over to the other side of the Jeep, where it drops out in the same location. We can get our taillights removed now, and you're just going to have on the inside edge of the taillight 2 Phillips head screws. So we'll go ahead and pull those out. You should just be able to grab this, pull straight back on it, and we're going to disconnect it here. So you push down on this tab, pull the 2 ends apart. We'll set our light off to the side. I'm going to do the same exact thing to get the passenger side one removed. What I've done, there's some tape that'll be covering up these wires. I just removed that, and we can test each wire for the function. And we're looking for our tail light signal and our brake light signal. So right now I have the tail lights on, and what you can do, you can touch each one of these pins with a test light until you get power. So it looks like the center pin is the only one with power. So we know that's our taillight signal. So if you follow that to the back of the plug, that'll be the white wire with the orange stripe. And what I'll do, I'll grab someone here and have them hit the brake pedal. I'll use the same technique to check for that signal and let you know what I come up with. After checking the function, the brake light signal is going to be the white wire with a green stripe. So those are the ones that we're going to be working with, and we'll cut them in half, about something like that, and then we'll strip each end of the insulation back, twist the wire, and each end is going to receive a blue spade terminal. Grab 2 of our diodes now, and on the backs of them there's some sticky tape. Stick them together. Then on the single terminal side, we're going to plug that in to our wiring closest to the connector plug here. Then we'll just go color for color. And I also, what I did here, just to help keep everything cleaned up, I just taped up the wires we weren't using. That way they're not in our way. So we'll get our new wiring in place and hooked up to the diodes. I got our new wiring into the taillight pocket. You just push it up from the bottom. Nothing really to that. You can cut it to length. And I crimped on a blue terminal to the yellow wire, and the white and brown wire I stripped out, or stripped back both ends rather, and then twisted them together real tight. And with this, you can put on one of the yellow terminals, crimp that down, and with the new yellow wire controlling our stop and turn, we're going to hook that up to the diode that has the factory white wire with the green stripe. And since the factory white wire with the orange stripe is for our taillight signal, we're going to take this end and connect it there. We'll grab our taillight now, get this plugged back in, and reinstalled the opposite way that we removed it. Moving over here to the passenger side, we got this set up pretty much the exact same way as the driver's side. Really, your only difference will be your wire colors. So in the case for the brake light signal, the factory wire will be white with a yellow stripe. And so I have the new green diode wire plugged into that diode. And then for the taillight signal, the factory wire is going to be white with a purple stripe. And so you'll plug your new white wire into that diode. You know, taped everything up, secured it and everything. And with that set up, we'll plug our light back in and get it reinstalled. With everything set up, it is a good idea to test your wiring to make sure that it's working properly. I just have our tow bar with our umbilical set up here, plugged in and plugged into a test box, which is simulating an RV. Keep in mind, you can always use your coach, but if it has any issues on its own, it might mislead you, thinking you did something wrong on the Jeep side. But with that in mind, we'll run through all of our functions. We'll try out our taillights. Then we'll use our left turn signal, our right turn signal, and our brake lights. And that will finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster diode wiring kit on our 2016 Jeep Wrangler.